We were talking about inflation, and I think another way to describe this dynamic, as you were describing, there is this kind of a race between real growth, the expansion of, you know, actual delivery of goods and services in the economy, and the increase in the money supply, which again is not the wealth itself, is just a call option on that wealth.
Mhm.
And so long as the expansion of the money supply is close to or a little below, even run a little above that expansion in goods and services, it's almost imperceptible, right? That the effectively central bank or the government more generally is harvesting this economic surplus that's being created by just creating, diluting the interest of others through expanding the money supply. So, I mean, I think that's a really important understanding. Is it's not, the illusion is that assets are becoming more valuable because the actual numeraire through which we are interpreting the value is being diminished, right? So the value of your home may be increasing year over year, but it's not the actual value, right? It's the nominal value. And effectively, it's a tax. This is why it's a tax, because they're just scraping a little bit off the top of this economic surplus that's being created by real actions of real productive market actors. And so it's insidious in a way in that it's illusory. And I'm always astounded at how effective this illusion has been. We're recording this in mid-December 2021. And just recently, President Biden put out this tweet where it shows a video of him signing a bill saying the United States always pays its debt on time. That's what this is about. And he's paying, quote unquote, paying the debt by increasing the debt ceiling. So this is expanding the government's borrowing, engaging in further deficit spending to pay the balances owed on previous deficit spending. This is, again, the self-deception or the lie, right, that we're trapped in. And I'm not sure. I get a little lost here. Does he actually believe that? I don't know. Is he completely full of shit? Just spewing lies onto people knowingly, maliciously? I'm not sure. But factually, we know, through the exploration of this book, it's oxymoronic, right? It's nonsensical to say you're repaying debt with debt. And my intuition is that this entire oxymoron is born from the oxymoron of the debt-based currency itself, right? If money is that which extinguishes debt, what is a debt-based money? It's an oxymoron in actuality. And you describe this inflation spiral that we enter into. People often use this analogy of addiction, right? We're addicted to fiat currency. And I think it's more than an analogy, actually, because there is this reciprocal narrowing that occurs where you've introduced new money to try and solve a problem. You've enjoyed some short-run stimulative benefit from that. You expanded the money supply 5%. The next time you need to expand it by 5% times 5%, or 105% times 105%, as you were describing earlier. And you get into this, again, you're injecting hidden risk into the economy over time. Reservoirs of demand absorb a lot of this inflationary pressure, as you described, government bonds, equities, real estate, et cetera. But eventually there's a psychological break at some point, right? And this is so interesting because once inflation expectations are widely held to be negative, let's say, people expect inflation, then it actually becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts. because people begin to sell the dollars or the fiat currency to hedge against the very inflation they are anticipating, the selling of which creates the inflation. So it is fundamentally psychological.
The trick amplifies itself because the early stages of an inflation, when people first start to see prices go up, especially housing prices, the first thing most people do is they increase their cash holdings because they think, well, I'll wait till it's affordable. Mm-hmm. The increased cash holding actually dampens the effect of the inflation and allows it to go on for longer. So the initial burst of inflation actually creates conditions which make the inflation worse in the long run, but invisible in the short run. The last stage of an inflation is when people realize, oh, prices are never going down. I get it. I better buy it this afternoon before it goes up further. And that's why inflation is purely a state of psychology. Money supply is purely a state of psychology too. And that's why I think ultimately, some Bitcoiners kind of like me too, kind of like get a little bit lost in like contemplating money supply, because you have to think not only people's wealth is measured in what they call near money, which is assets, anything that can be in your mind, not in reality, but in your mind, anything that can be converted to money quickly becomes part of your concept of your wealth and leads to your sense of your value. And so the money supply does not take into account the fact of how much Bitcoin people have, how many bonds people have, doesn't take into account access to a HELOC, home equity line of credit. All of that actually increases people's purchasing power psychologically. And so as the asset wealth increases, that is asset wealth is literally part of inflation and proof of inflation. And the one thing that really stopped me cold, there's one line in the middle of Dying of Money where he talks about one of the hallmarks of the most dangerous point in an inflationary cycle is when asset prices are at an all-time high and you have yet to see any inflation in real goods and services. That is the sign that something is about to break. And when I read that in 2019, and like it kind of stopped me cold. I was like, we're there right now.